Hello and welcome to our fifth session. The vehicle in our prototype is currently a very low end, very dangerous self-driving car. You click run and the car rockets off on its own, crashing into every obstacle along the way. Not necessarily the kind of car you want to be a passenger. So it is right time we let the player step into the driver's seat and take the wheel. By the end of this session, the player will be able to control the acceleration and direction of the vehicle using the arrow keys on the keyboard. The vehicle should move forward when the up arrow key is pressed and backward when the down arrow key is pressed. Luckily, Unity has an entire input system set up to help us exactly do that. When you press the up arrow, you get an input value of +1, and when you press the down arrow, you get an input value of -1. So let's say we set the vehicle speed to 10. All you have to do is multiply that speed by the input value and you are good to go. When the player presses up arrow, it multiplies 10 by +1, giving the +10, moving that vehicle in the positive forward direction. But if they press the down arrow, it multiplies 10 by -1, giving you -10, moving the vehicle in the negative backward direction. You can basically use the same type of system to rotate the vehicle. You multiply the rotation by a positive value if they press the right arrow, turning the vehicle to right, and multiply by a negative value if they press the left arrow, turning the vehicle to the left. Just some simple multiplications and you have got full control of this vehicle. So to make this all happen, let's dive into Unity. To start Unity, let us first launch Unity Hub and let us open this Drive Simulator project. And if you doesn't have this project available to you, come into your YouTube page or in the e-learning page, and if you come into the description, I will click more here, and if you scroll down, you have a Patreon link. Click on this Patreon link and this is going to open the Unity 6.3 Junior Programmer Series Patreon page, and if you scroll down, you have here session 5 Driving Simulator Starter Project.zip file. So you can just click on this and download it. And once it is downloaded, unzip this folder, then come into Unity Hub, come into add project from disk and browse to the folder where you had unzipped the content and click on open. So right now I will cancel it and I am going to click on Drive Simulator to launch the project. The latest version of Unity works on the new Unity input system, but some of the codes that we are using here may not be compatible with the new system. So what we have to do is, if you come here in edit and select project setting, and in the project setting I am now going to come into the player, I am going to open other setting, and if you scroll down you can now see active input handling and it is set to new. Now click here and select the option both. Unity editor requires you to restart Unity editor again. Now click on apply and Unity will quit and it will restart. Now once Unity is launched, I will close this project setting. I will come here into vehicle. We had added this player control script with speed set to 11. I will play the game, and if I set this speed, see if I move it back, see it is going to move backwards. See if I make the speed negative, it is moving backward, and as it is running, if I make the speed positive, it moves forward faster. As I increase the speed, speed increases. If I make it negative, it moves back. So I can control its movement forward and backward by changing the speed value. Stop the playback. Now similar to this, I want to move this truck left or right. To do this, I will now come into the player controller and I am going to double click to open it. And for moving left or right, I am going to declare a new variable. I will come here to this line public float speed, that is line number 6, and I will press enter, and I am going to declare a new variable. Type open close square brackets. I will enter serialized field. I will make this public. Type of the variable is float and I am going to call this as turn speed, where T is small letter because this is a variable, and S capital letter. Just end it with semicolon. I will now come into the update, and I am now going to select this transform translate entire line here, and I am going to copy it and press enter, and I am going to paste it. Now only change here I am going to do is in transform translate, in vector 3, instead of moving it forward, I am going to change this value after period to right, and I am going to multiply it by time delta time. I am now going to multiply it by turn speed. I will copy turn speed and I will paste this variable value over here. Now if I go to file and save this, I will come back to Unity and see that the script is compiled. Come into the vehicle. Now you have two variables here, speed and turn speed. If I execute the game, and when the game is running, if I move the speed back, see the speed is controlled here, and turn speed, when I move it positive, you can see it is coming to the right. Okay, it fell down because I moved it too much. So I will stop the playback. I will again play it. When I make this value positive, it moves to right. When I make this value negative, you can see it moves to left. So I can either move this left or right, or speed if I decrease, it is going to move back. I am now going to stop the playback. In this vehicle game object, till now we controlled this Jeep to either move left or right or forward or bottom by using these two variables, by dragging this left or right. However, in real scenario, instead of dragging it, we have to attach these values to any of the keys in the keyboard. Say for example, if I press the top arrow, the speed should increase, the bottom arrow, the speed should decrease, right arrow, the turn speed should increase, left arrow, the turn speed should decrease. In older version of Unity, we used to do this using conditional statements. Say for example, we used to put a condition, if the key press is top, then we would add +1 to speed. If key press is bottom, then add -1 to speed. So it was a very long code that we used to write in older Unity system. But in the latest version of Unity, we have a new kind of input system. Unity themselves have understood that some of the keys that we press while gaming is common, and they have already programmed Unity on the back end to respond to these keys, and this is what we call as the new input system in Unity. To assess this, you can come into edit, and here in project setting you have various settings here, and one of the setting here is the input manager. And when you use this input manager, it is asking whether you are going to use physical keys. You can enable this option, and if you open the access, you have different types of names given here, and the name that we are going to deal now is this horizontal and vertical. If I open horizontal, you can see that the name is horizontal, and horizontally the value of any game object is decreased when you press left button, and it is increased when you press right button. And also, instead of left you can use A, and instead of right you can use D. It has a gravity value of 3 and sensitivity of 3. All these are predefined in Unity. And similarly, if I close this and if I open vertical here, we use down for negative value and up for positive value, and at the other alternative key is S for negative, W for positive. This also has a gravity of 3 and sensitivity of 3. If you come to jump, you have only positive button for this, which is space, and the name is given as jump, and the gravity value given here is 1000, sensitivity is 1000. You have most of the game interactivity that the user performs listed here. Now we are going to deal with this horizontal and vertical. H is capital and V is capital. I will close this project setting. Now to use this new input system, I will come into script and select this player controller file and double click to open it in Visual Studio Code. First, I am going to declare a variable, and I am going to call this variable as horizontal input. So after this turn speed, I will press enter, and I will call public, and the type of variable is float, and I am going to call this as horizontal I capital input. Because it's a variable, I have made H small letter, and I am going to end it with semicolon. I am going to assign this a value in the update, that is every frame this value will be attached again and again. So if I come into update, come after the open flower bracket, press enter, I am going to type I am going to call this variable horizontal input, and I am going to put an equal sign, and now I am going to call my input system in the code. So for this I will type input, and in this input system I will type period, and I am going to call GetAxis, and I have open close bracket, and I will end it with semicolon. Now inside this bracket I have to now declare what axis I am going to assess in my input system. Come into Unity. Here in the input manager we had named it as horizontal. So I will copy this name, I will come back into Visual Studio Code, and in this bracket I am going to paste this. However, you cannot paste this name directly. In Visual Studio Code you are seeing this red line indicating the error, and it is also giving me the hint what should be the actual value. This horizontal, what we are calling this, we call it as a string, and strings in any programming language we are going to add it in between inverted commas. This horizontal I will select it, and with shift pressed I will press on the inverted comma. As of now nothing is going to happen because we have declared the variable and we have assigned the value. I am going to select this name horizontal input, and I am going to copy this, and this should translate my vector 3 left and right movement. So I will come into the second line, and after turn speed I will press a space, and I am going to multiply this with horizontal input variable. So whether it is +1 or -1, it will be multiplied here. If I go to file and if I save it, I will now come back into Unity, allow the script to compile. In console you doesn't have any error. I will select this vehicle, and in the parameters if you come, you have a new horizontal input scale here which is set to 0, and this turn speed I will set it to some value. I will give it a value of 1. I will save this. If I play the game, see when the game is running, if I press the left arrow, see the vehicle moves to left. If I press right arrow, see the vehicle moves to right. And if you are feeling this movement is very slow, I can stop this. In vehicle object play control script, increase the turn speed value to 10. I will go to file and save, and now if I execute it, if I press left, see it moves more now. Now when I press left arrow or right arrow, you can see the amount of movement is more. So when I press left, it moves left. Now I press right, I press left. Either I can press left and right arrow or A and D. Now I will stop the playback. Similar to left and right movement, if I want to control the forward and backward movement also, that is the speed of the vehicle, then I am going to come into edit project setting, coming into input manager, instead of horizontal, I am now going to use vertical name. This is controlled by up and down key or using the W and S key. I will close project settings. I will open the player controller script in Visual Studio Code, and now coming over here, after this public float horizontal input, I will press enter, and I will declare another variable which is public. This is also a float number, and I am now going to call this as vertical and I capital input and end it with semicolon. Again I will come into update code block, and after this horizontal input, I am now going to press enter, and I am going to call this variable vertical input. We are going to now assign it the value. Vertical input will be equal to, I will call input system wherein I is capital, type period, and I am going to call this GetAxis method, open close bracket and end it with semicolon. And inside the bracket, first put inverted commas, and inside that I will type vertical with V capital. I have assigned vertical input the value of my vertical GetAxis input system, which will be either +1 or -1. I am going to now add it to my transform.translate vector3 forward motion. After speed, I will press space into adding the star. I am now going to call this vertical input variable. I will go to file and save my script, come back to Unity, allow the script to compile, and once it is compiled, now if I play the game, it is not moving at all because the input value is 0. Now to make it move forward, either I have to press the up arrow key or the W button. It started to move. If I now press down button or the S button, it moves back. If I press forward and also left, it moves to left. If I press right arrow key, it moves right. So forward and left arrow, forward and right arrow. I have full control on my car. I am now going to stop the playback. Now in this game, when I play it, see when I press the left arrow or the right arrow, the car itself is moving to left or right. But in reality, when I press left or right arrow, the car is not going to move to the left. It is going to turn to the left. We have to convert this left movement into rotation. I will stop the playback. I will come into my player controller script, and this time I will come into update code block in line number 23. After this transform.translate vector3 right, I will press enter, and this time I am going to call transform period, and now instead of translate I am going to call rotate, where R is capital, and I will open close bracket and end it with semicolon. Inside this rotate parenthesis, the first component I have to give here is the direction. In which direction I want my object to rotate. So if you come back to Unity and if I select my vehicle, and I will now right click and come into the top view and press F to zoom to this vehicle. Now I will take the rotate tool. When I press left, this should rotate along which axis? You can see in the display, it should rotate along the Y axis. See, I will set it back to 0. Now right clicking on this gizmo, if I come into the free view, you can see Y axis represents vector3 up direction. So I will now come back to my code and I am going to set my direction to vector3 period up, and then I have to put a comma. You can see the tip here. Axis is the first parameter, and then I have to give the angle, from how much angle it should rotate. I am going to take this time delta time into turn speed into horizontal input. This entire value I am going to press Ctrl C and copy it. Coming back to rotate, I am going to paste it. I am going to select this entire second line and delete it. So I have one translate and one rotate. Now I will go to file, save this, come back into Unity, allow the script to compile, play the game, and when it is playing, if I press A, you can see the car is turning. D, the car turns to right. W moves forward. See, pressing A, now the car is not floating to left, but it is rotating. I feel this rotation speed is less. Stop the playback, select vehicle, and in turn speed, I will set this value to something like 25, save it, and now if I execute the game, W it moves forward, A it rotates to left, and D it rotates to right. Just stop the playback. If you come to this axis, I will come on the gizmo and I will right click and come into the top view. You have the axis here. this is z-axis, this is the x-axis, and this axis right now is set to global. On the left hand side you can see it is set to global. So global axis means select rotation tool, and if I rotate it slightly to the right like this, then if I select the move tool, see the car is in this direction. But if I move it along the z-axis, see it is moving in the global axis. A car when it rotates should move in the car axis. See, moving it like this, it appears like floating. When you are adding motion to your car, instead of using global, we have to use the local axis. Now when I change it to local axis, you can immediately see that now the z-axis is set to axis of the car. So if I again take the rotate tool and if I rotate it to the left like some direction like this, and again if I take the move tool, see this is going to move in this direction. So this is about global and local axis, and for the car, for natural movement, I will set this to local axis. I will come back to rotation and set it back to 0. Now I will save this. Now once all this code is done, here in this control, turn speed is the only thing that I am going to change. Horizontal input, vertical input and speed, I am not going to control it here, but it is controlled by the keyboard. I will double click player controller and come into the speed. Instead of serialized field, I am going to make this private float speed. For turn speed, I will leave it public. For this horizontal input and vertical input, I am going to make it private. This vertical input also, I am going to make it private. Go to file, and I am now going to save this. Now coming back to Unity, check whether there are any errors. Now if you come into the vehicle, in player controller, I just have the turn speed controller. Coming back to player controller script, it is a good practice to add comments to every code here so that other developers can understand it. Float speed is there. Above that, I will select the open flower bracket, press enter. I will add 2 forward slashes, set the forward movement speed. Turn speed, again I am going to add 2 forward slash, set up the turning speed. Horizontal input, for this I will add 2 forward slashes, and this is going to variable to store the input horizontal axis. I will come to this private float horizontal input line, press enter, and I will add again 2 forward slash and call this as variable to store the input vertical axis. Then I will come here in the update, I will come to open flower bracket, press enter, add 2 forward slash, and this is, I am going to call this as get the player's horizontal rotation input. And for vertical input, I will press enter, add 2 forward slashes, and this is get the player's vertical movement input. And next line is move the vehicle forward, and after this line, I will press enter, line number 29. Again, I will add 2 forward slashes, turn the vehicle based on horizontal input. So these comments will be helpful for other developers to understand exactly in each line what is happening. I will come to file and save this, and let us move back to our game. Now I will come to the game view. Now we have a completely working car simulator where we have complete control over the car by using WASD button or the arrow keys. So with this, we are going to conclude this session.